Welcome into the NFL opening line report, first opening line report for 2023 season. I am Drew Martin, joined, of course, by Teddy Covers. Teddy, hey, man, it's an exciting day here. We got schedule out in the NFL. How you feeling, buddy? Good to be on with you.
There's something about Virgin NFL lines that gets my blood going. I can't explain it. You get Virgin lines every day in baseball or basketball or whatever. But when those first NFL lines come out, and now we have lines for week one. We have actually there are books that are posted lines for all 18 weeks of the season. We've got odds to win divisions out. We've got odds to make the playoffs out. And of course, we have season win totals for all of these teams posted. So the NFL market is maturing as we speak. So it's great to be back, and it's great to talk NFL here in May. And why are we talking it here in May? Because these numbers are going to move. There are good bets available at this stage of the offseason. They're not going to be there when August rolls around. That's why the win report, I keep putting out the win report earlier and earlier every year. This year, I think it's going to come out in June. I'm anticipating around Father's Day, the week after Father's Day, sometime in that range. 4 or 5 weeks from now, we're going to put that report out. Market doesn't wait till August anymore to start getting involved in the NFL.
Absolutely, Teddy. And guys, we're going to be going over the opening numbers. Also, taking a look at some of these schedules, where the bye week set up. A little bit more of a rotation feel I'm reading here, Teddy, with the NFL scheduling coming into this season. And guys, a lot of time with that NFL report that Teddy is 97-47 in, by the way. 97-47. That's 97 wins, 47 losses, 15-4 those big tickets. So you're going to want to get that. A lot of times, Teddy, it's two releases, right? You'll come out with one after a couple preseason, not every time, but I believe that's how you've been doing it.
Yeah, so part one of the report comes out before the preseason starts. This year, again, it's going to come out before July, I would think. It's going to be June when the initial report comes out. And then after week 3 of the preseason, that's the point in which the markets have overreacted at their max. After week 3 of the preseason, sometimes I find a win total or two that I'll put out at that point to take advantage of some of the line moves. But that's where the lines have the betting markets have overreacted to stuff. So part one is the big report. Like I said, that will come out in June. Part 2 after week 3 of the preseason. Some years we find a couple of plays. Some years we don't. It just depends on how the markets are reacting to what we see. But in general, it is a 2-part report. When we release it, we will release we'll give out the date of the potential second release. And if I have anything to release that day, you'll get it.
All right,
Teddy.
Teddy
nothing more to buy, no bait and switch, no nonsense. You know how we do it at WagerTalk.
Absolutely, man. Teddy Covers breaking it down here. Teddy, what are we doing? Going down every game? We didn't really go over that part of it. Just for rotation
week
number,
1,
you want to hit them?
All
right.
Absolutely. Let's talk about, so the week 1 numbers are posted. They're posted at every book. And it's not a mature market, but I track these openers and I track them closely. And I'm going to give you guys every number that I'm calling the opener. I'll give you for inside and total for every game. Now, don't be fooled for a minute. God, I read some really bad big line move articles from generally respected sources. There weren't any big line moves for week 1 NFL. What we saw is arbitrage, almost exclusively arbitrage. One move after the next. There were a couple of moves that we're going to talk about, but the vast majority of moves, again, these mainstream articles say, I talked to so-and-so sportsbook director. Well, when one book posts a -3 and another book posts pick 'em and it lands at -1, that's not a line move. That's just arbitrage. That's like Bills Jets Monday Night Football. And if you're the book that posted the -3 that was the bad number, all the money's coming for the one side. When you look at the bigger market, and that's what I try to do here, the broader marketplace, there's no line there. That's just one example of what we're going to talk about.
All right, guys, let's get into it. Thursday, September 7th, NFL Week 1, first kickoff here. The Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs, 8:20 Eastern, 5:20 Pacific. We're going to go down in rotation order here, guys. The WagerTalk live odds screen, if you click on NFL, we're just going down those little numbers next to the team name. That is the rotation number. We're going down in numerical order here. So Detroit, Kansas City here in Arrowhead, Teddy. Kansas City Chiefs -7, pretty much across the board. There is a -6.5 out there at DraftKings, 53.5 or 54 being the total. Lions and Chiefs to kick us off, Teddy.
Yeah, and Drew, just for the purposes of this discussion right here, just throw the games to me because I don't want people to be confused at all about what I'm tracking the openers to be for these games. Okay, so just throw me the game and I'll give I'm calling KC -7, total of 54. Against Detroit. We're going to track line moves off of this particular number. That's the broad market number. KC 7, total of 54. And that's where it is at the vast majority of books, right? And we'll see what the market does. But so far in this game, the markets have done nothing.
We got Sunday, September 10th, 1 o'clock. So this will be the 1 o'clock Eastern slate, 10 a.m. Pacific. Carolina and Atlanta, a little division battle here, Teddy. What are we thinking? Panthers and Falcons.
Atlanta, we're going to call Atlanta -3 and 43 over Carolina. That's the openers, and this line's not going anywhere right now. It's going to sit at 3 all summer. You can count on it. Total of 43. I haven't seen a whole lot more. There's been a couple of under bets, couple of over bets. When you look at the broader market, nothing going on the total just yet. Falcons -3 over the Panthers is my open.
Next game up, 1 o'clock Eastern slate. Highest spread on the board here, guys. Houston, the Texans at the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens I'm throwing it over to you, Teddy. Texans, Ravens.
Exactly. Baltimore. I'm calling it 9.5 for the Ravens. -9.5. Total 44.5 for this game. I would not be surprised to see Baltimore money between now and the opening kickoff here. A lot of it will depend on what the Texans look like in their first preseason game, their first 2 preseason games, which I'm not anticipating they're going to look great. The Ravens are the only way this line can go. If you like Baltimore, I wouldn't talk you out of locking. You can find 9s out there right now if you shop around. I wouldn't argue at all with locking in on Baltimore -9. That is a one-way number. It can only go up. I don't know that it's gonna, but it ain't coming down. We're not going to see the Texans take a whole lot of money over the summer.
Cincinnati Bengals, Cleveland Browns up next here, Teddy. This is our first road favorite on the slate. Cincinnati at Cleveland.
There is a long-term outstanding track record for divisional home dogs in week 1. Ralph Michaels has tweeted about it at Cal Sports LV, and I always, follow Ralph on Twitter if you're not doing that already. The stuff he tweets out is tremendous. But certainly the long-term trend in the NFL has been towards the home dogs. Cincy, I got a -2.5 and 48 as the openers here. We've seen some under money at some books. If this starts going to 3, we'll likely see some buyback. There will be some wise guy support for the home dogs on opening day.
Well, sticking with that theme, we got another one here, Teddy. Jacksonville at Indianapolis up next. Jaguars at Colts.
I got Jags. Again, these are my openers. Looking at a multitude of books. Jaguars -3.5, total 43.5, road chalk at Indy. Look, based on preliminary analysis, there are going to be some good bets to be made on the Jaguars in that division. It's Jacksonville and the 3 dwarves, and this line is showing us that. There could be, again, this has a sharp square divide written all over it. The pros likely to be on the home dog. The Joes, not so much. I don't know how much of a public team Jacksonville really is, though. Certainly not yet. They'll have to win some games to get there. Anyhow, Jags 3.5, 43.5. That's how I'm tracking this opener.
Yeah, we'll get into it a little bit more deep, guy, team to team here. But I almost wonder if we're a year late on Jacksonville. I feel like if you're just jumping on them now, might be a little late. We got Tampa Bay and Minnesota up next. Still 1 o'clock Eastern slate here, Teddy. Bucks at the Vikings.
So I want to talk to that for a minute. When you asked if we're a year late with the Jags, Jags weren't a monster point spread team last year. And when we think back to the Urban Meyer era, which is only 2 years ago in Jacksonville, it's not like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Where they've come from to where they are to the potential they have to be, I don't look at the Jags as the last year team. I look at the Jags as the this year team,
Okay.
personally. Minnesota, split line. 6.5/7, 45.5 against Tampa. Tampa's, the markets are projecting the Tampa to be one of the very worst teams in the league this year. Really, Tampa, Arizona, and then those teams from the AFC South are between them. You're looking at bottom 5 power ratings. That's where you'll find them. No respect for the Bucks in the betting markets. That said, this isn't a line that it was a clear 6.5. This isn't a line where it was a clear 7. I call it a 6.5/7, 6.75 tab line. I don't know whether it's going to land. Tampa's not taking any money. The only question is whether Minnesota gets up to 7 or not. And I'm not necessarily convinced that the market's going to be all excited about the Vikings either. Total 45.5 there, and that basically hasn't moved.
Heading to the Big Easy up next, guys. New Orleans, the Saints hosting the Tennessee Titans. Week 1, 1 o'clock Eastern in the Big Easy, Teddy.
Yeah, we'll call Saints -3.5, total of 42. That's pretty much across the board. Tennessee's another team getting dramatically disrespected in the offseason marketplace. And when you look at the Titans roster, I can understand why. The Saints, who on paper have their fair share of holes, there have been salary cap issues in New Orleans. They're lined at 9.5 wins, which speaks volumes, not about how good they are, but about how easy that schedule is. NFC South, they play the easiest schedules in the NFL this year, and it's not that close. We'll talk more about that later in the show.
Interesting tidbit there, guys. We got San Francisco at Pittsburgh up next. So it's 49ers at the Steelers in the Steel City here, Teddy.
Now, note, this is not a division home dog, so it doesn't have the strength long-term when you look at the database research as the divisional home dogs week 1. My numbers, again, I'm going to call it San Fran -3, 41.5 against Pittsburgh. And basically, that's a number at just about every book that you can find right now. That's where I'm calling the openers. And again, these numbers have already been up for a week, or close to it. Again, so we're talking about opening line moves, not doing anything. Most of these numbers aren't doing anything. Hence, my criticism of any book report, of any of the reports that I read, these numbers have moved. The broader markets aren't moving right now at all.
Last 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kick here. 467, 468, the rotation number. Arizona Cardinals at the Washington, formerly football team here, Teddy. And hey, it's West traveling east on the East Coast, but it's also week 1. Reminder, preseason games, not after, I believe, Thursday, Teddy. But anyway, Arizona at Washington.
Yeah, if you're a West Coast team traveling east, week 1 is probably the best time to do it because you have been playing in the preseason. You're not yet locked into those regular Sunday rhythms. Washington -6 and 40, the total against Arizona. And that's basically the number. Again, these are numbers I wrote down last week, and nothing's moved a whole lot just yet. So call the Commanders -6 and 40 against Arizona. Like Tampa, a team considered to be very much at the bottom of the NFL power ratings.
Heading to the afternoon slate now, guys. On the week 1 NFL card, we got Green Bay at Chicago. Packers at the Bears here, Teddy, from Soldier Field.
Yeah, Bears -2.5, 45 against the Packers. We're getting some interesting, I read a lot about Jordan Love of late, Green Bay starting quarterback. I would not be surprised if we see some movement towards the Packers, not against the Packers, towards Green Bay. I think that's one that's with Green Bay's win total with this week 1 line. Packers have been division champs in every recent season, and if quarterback play is decent, I don't think they should be dogs to Chicago. This is one that you can circle this one now. Packers money is going to come in.
Like it, Teddy, taking a stand here in the NFC North, guys. Next up, another divisional battle. Las Vegas at Denver, heading to Mile High here, Teddy. We got the Broncos hosting the Raiders.
So I want to touch on the last game for just a moment. Why is no emergency betting alert? Why doodly you? Why not? Why none of that? Because it's not an emergency. The Packers are going to be 2.5-point dogs until proven otherwise. When Jordan Love comes in August and we start getting some good reports, or in late July, or if they look good in his preseason game, that's when the money's going to come. But there's no emergency here. This isn't a Monday morning during a regular season Monday morning where the lines are going to go nuts. It's a Monday morning in May where the lines aren't going to do anything. Denver and the Las Vegas Raiders. Now this one moved right out. There were 2.5s out there, and there were 3s out there, and they all got wiped out right away. I'm calling it 3.5, 44.5. The Broncos over the Raiders. None of those lines held. And there's still a couple of 3s out there with juice, but this line closes 4, 4.5, 5. I would anticipate more Broncos money. And again, there's no emergency. You already missed the very best of it. If you like Denver, I'd lock in before August at -3. And again, you can find -3s right now. That's the number to lock in at. You can find 3 -20 out there. Which is the best number you're going to find if you like Denver.
We got East Coast on the West Coast here. Week 1 up next. Miami Dolphins at the LA Chargers. Dolphins at Chargers here, Teddy.
Yeah, I'm calling LA -2.5, total of 50. This line's not doing anything just yet. We have seen a little bit of over money at a couple of books, a couple of leading indicator books there. That might be something worth paying attention to, especially because looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen, there's still a couple of 49.5s out there. That number's not going to last. I'm anticipating over money for Chargers, Dolphins. But again, it'll trickle at this stage. It's not going to come pouring in.
Just a couple more here in the 4 o'clock Eastern slate. Philadelphia Eagles at the New England Patriots. 475, 476, the rotation number here. Eagles at the Patriots.
My openers, I'm grading at Philly -5, total of 46 against the Patriots. Defending Super Bowl losers don't have a great track record week 1. Something to be aware of, though I don't know that the betting markets broadly are going to devalue Philly at all. Everyone loved their offseason already, and no one seems to like what the Patriots are doing. And it's not like Belichick is known for great Septembers. More likely to see Philly money here than New England. But again, 5 and 46 is not doing anything.
Teddy, we've been doing this show. I've been hosting this show with you, I think, for like 6-ish years, and that's the one of the stats that sticks in my mind going through this. Super Bowl losers. There's been a little something there, guys. Not notch that one down. I love it, Teddy. Good stuff. L.A. Rams, Seattle Seahawks up next here, Teddy. Last of the afternoon slate.
Yeah, I've got Seattle -6, 46.5 against the L.A. Rams, and that's basically what the markets are now. There are some 5/5.5s out there. But as soon as people start looking at that Rams roster closely, we're not going to see any more Rams money. Rams look rough on paper, really rough. 6, 46.5. That's how I'm grading it.
Yeah, when you get rid of all your draft picks, I don't know. Hey, Rams, we'll see what happens this year. As we head to the Sunday night slate, 479, 480, 820 Eastern, Dallas Cowboys, New York Giants. Little divisional dog feel here, Teddy.
Divisional home dog again with that strong long-term track record. Dallas -3, total of 47 for the Giants. It's painted that across the board. I don't see this moving a whole lot between now and September.
Next one up, maybe the game we've all been waiting for here. Monday night to finish week number 1, Buffalo Bills, New York Jets. Teddy, interesting to hear your opinion on this line move. Or line.
And again, this is what one book open 3, one book open pick. The markets have said 1. Buffalo 147 is how I'm grading. I would not be shocked if we see some over money for this ball game. Certainly the general public's going to want to bet over on Monday Night Football with Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen. And from a side standpoint, I would not be surprised if we see some more Buffalo money. But right now, we're grading the opener 1 and 47. Bills against the Jets, and let's not forget those home dogs in divisional games week 1 and that extraordinary track record.
All right, guys. He's Teddy Covers. I'm Drew Martin, taking a look here at Week 1 NFL opening line report. We're going to be doing this again throughout the summer here, guys, going a little bit more in-depth in these games, but wanted to get this out to you, of course, on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. We'll be going during the seasons each and every week during the NFL season, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Follow Teddy on Twitter at Teddy_covers. I'm on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. We're going to hit some schedules now, bye week. The schedule, a little bit more of a rotation feel. I read an article on that anyway, Teddy. So what did you want to hit here in the back half of the opening line report, week 1 here?
So let's talk strength of schedule right off the bat. All right.
Okay.
Because in my mind, that's an extremely, extremely important thing to talk about. Just a brief note about this year's opening line report, Drew. I plan my summer vacation so I get back the day before the first opening line report show. So we're ready to roll for week 1 of the preseason in August, and we'll go all the way through the Super Bowl every week. And obviously, we'll do a couple of shows over the course of the next month/6 weeks. Talk about win totals, talk about where the markets are moving broadly. But once we get to August, each and every Monday, right here on WagerTalk TV, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. for you on the East Coast. Now, let's talk strength of schedule. Mainstream strength of schedule data is not just bad. It will hurt you because you're getting inaccurate numbers. Mainstream data is based on last year's win record or last year's won-loss records. When you look at last year's won-loss records, you're getting all of last year's injuries, all of last year's personnel, all of last year's coaches. They're gone. Many of them are gone. It's not last year. When I look at win totals, I want to factor in only one thing. That's this year's schedule and this year's season win totals. Now, there are going to be some anomalies in there. I talked about how weak the schedules are for the NFC South. So the NFC South teams, from a win total standpoint, are a little bit higher than they probably should be. Whereas you look at some of the teams in the East, whether it would be the AFC or the NFC East, and because of their tough schedules this year, maybe the win totals are a notch or two lower than they should be. Nonetheless, it's a pretty good assessment for how good teams are this year, or how good teams are expected to be this year, not last year. When I start my NFL work, the very first thing I do is I go through every game a team played last year, and I power rate their opponent, use their power rating for their opponent on the game, on the week the game was played. So there's no aggregate stuff at the end of the year. This is what their record was. You played a team that's an A-level team, it shows as an A-level team in my numbers. You played a team that was a D-level team, it shows the D-level team in my numbers. And that gives me what I consider to be a fairly accurate strength of schedule for last year. You take those numbers and filter them through how a team performed. Wow, this team really underachieved last year, but look at all the injuries they had, and the schedule was brutal. So my starting point for that team would be higher than the end of last year's record. Similarly, this team was healthy all year. Boy, they played everyone with a backup quarterback, played one weak team after the next, everything broke right for them. Well, we're going to power rate them a little bit lower than their closing from last year as my starting point because they were feasting on the weak. So when we look at this year's numbers, all right, looking at this year's strength of schedule, just going to give you the easiest and the toughest. 5 easiest: Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Colts, Bears against New Orleans, Atlanta, Carolina, Indy, Chicago. All teams facing weak schedules because they underachieved last year. And, they're facing last place or close to last place schedules. And all teams that have it fairly easy based on this year's win totals. Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Colts, Bears. When it comes to the hardest schedules this year, based on this year's win totals. Again, I'm not looking for the middle of the pack. We're looking for the outliers. Who's playing a really easy slate? Who's playing a really hard slate? Patriots, Bills, Dolphins, Raiders, Chiefs. The 5 hardest schedules based on this year's win totals in the NFL. Now, one thing that I do that I haven't seen and a whole lot of other people do, I like to factor in the juice for win totals. over 6.5 minus 150. Well, that's a 7 or a 6.9. That's how I'm adding up. So that way I factor in juice as well as the win total itself to get a really accurate picture of who the betting markets actually think you're going to face a tough schedule or an easy schedule this year. Those are the teams, certainly, at first analysis that stand out. We'll do more, but at first analysis, those 10 teams stand out really tough or really easy.
I like that, Teddy. So the week, I got New Orleans Saints, Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, Indianapolis Colts, and the Chicago Bears. And guys, a recap here, the hardest, again, from like Teddy just very eloquently explained, the win totals for this year, which I think makes total sense here, Teddy. It's kind of like that next level handicapping. New England Patriots, Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins, Las Vegas Raiders, and Kansas City Chiefs here. And there's a theme. I mean, there is divisional kind of it's sticking there. I mean, it's AFC East and AFC West with the hardest and a little bit of the weakest in the NFC South. You're seeing correlation is what I'm getting at with these schedules, guys. So, hey, I thought that was great here, Teddy. I don't know if you had anything.
I appreciate that, Drew, man.
Yeah.
And honestly, look, I haven't gotten 97 and 47 over a 21 or 22 year sample size by accident. All right, this stuff works, and that's why I keep doing it. And it's time consuming, but I do it because it works and it pays dividends, and it pays dividends for September handicapping. It pays dividends. You know, you have an idea of which teams, whatever, the work you put in now pays off. That's all I'm going to say. Let's talk about primetime games. But I'm saying for the audience as well, the work you put in May pays dividends in September, and it pays dividends when you're cashing tickets in January. Trust me, it does. It does. Let's talk about primetime games, because primetime games is an interesting scenario here. The teams that you never see on prime time, if they're any good, they stay under the radar for months on end, way longer than a team that comes out of nowhere, and all of a sudden you see them, Sunday night playing and then Monday night playing. So if any of these teams, 0 primetime games this year, Houston, Atlanta, Arizona, Indy, no one expects anything out of those teams. 1 primetime is Washington. 2 primetimes, Tampa, Cleveland, Tennessee, Carolina, the LA Rams. Note, every one of those teams is not supposed to be contending for anything. So if any of them's any good, they're likely to be an under-the-radar team much longer than some of the more public teams. And again, 0, Houston, Atlanta, Arizona, Indy. 1, Washington. 2, Tampa, Cleveland, Carolina, and the LA Rams. On the other end of the equation, the teams that are playing in 5 or 6 primetime games, teams that the league is hyping up for this year, teams that the league wants on TV a lot this year. Sometimes those teams, especially if they win a game or two early, they can be a little bit overvalued in the markets. That said, there's a vested interest in these teams not having disaster seasons for the NFL. They don't want a team that's on primetime 6 times that ends up going 3-14. Something to be aware of. Primetime games, teams with 5 or 6 primetime games this year include the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Bills, the Cowboys. They all have 6. 5, the 49ers, the Eagles, the Raiders, the Vikings, the Packers, and the Jets. So those are all teams that the league is hoping will have relatively good seasons, hence all the national TV appearances. Drew?
Teddy, I got something on the international games, but I think you wanted to hit bye weeks too. What you got up next for the slate?
Yeah, so teams facing opponents coming off a bye. Advantage opponent. The 49ers and the Rams each face 4 teams coming off a bye week. Disadvantage, San Fran. Disadvantage, LAR. No other team has more than 2. Those 2 teams both have 4 coming off bye weeks. Teams that don't face a single opponent coming off a bye week. Moderate advantage, That'll be Arizona, Baltimore, Chicago, Cleveland, Indy, Jacksonville, Miami, New England, the New York Jets, Pittsburgh, and Tennessee. Again, the Titans, the Steelers, the Jets, the Patriots, the Dolphins, the Jaguars, the Colts, the Browns, the Bears, the Ravens, and the Cardinals have a modest scheduling edge without facing a single team off a bye all year long. Couple more schedule notes that I want to talk about, Drew, and then you can start firing questions away at me. But schedule stuff that stands out. Giants, they play a home game week 1. Then they play 7 of their next 9 on the road. That is about as tough a road-heavy schedule. Now, if they can survive that, look at a bunch of home games down the stretch. But from a home road standpoint, you don't see 7 out of 9 on the road in the NFL. The Giants playing 7 road games out of their first 10 is about as high as I'll ever see. That's not necessarily a good thing. We look at the schedule, how it breaks down early, late, and I do a lot of that with my win total analysis. If a bad team has an early schedule that's weak, that might not be a bad team. We were able to cash a Giants win total over last year because the Giants had a really weak schedule early. Like, they'll be able to take advantage. There'll be some momentum. They'll be playing meaningful games in September, and it won't in December, and it won't be about getting playing time for next year's guys. So, from a strength of schedule standpoint, I pay a lot of attention early, late. Buffalo, man, the back half of their schedule is absolutely brutal. Something to worth noting. The Bills got off to a hot start. It may not ended up being a hot finish. The back end of their schedule stood out to me as being the toughest in the NFL. There, that's what I got, Drew. Go
Love
to
it,
town.
Teddy.
Fire away.
Absolutely, man. That no bye week and 49ers and Rams, 4 games, first teams off of a bye week. I know that made my notes, man. So doing handicapping for the listeners out there. I know you're saving a lot of time. You're putting a lot of time in. So I know I appreciate it. I know a lot of people out there appreciate it. Appreciate all the DMs on Twitter, people asking about the NFL opening line report. Well, here it is, guys. We'll be doing it a couple more times throughout the summer. Also, like Teddy talked about, week 1 of the NFL preseason throughout the Super Bowl and the week after the Super Bowl, we'll be going here. NFL opening line report, 1 o'clock Eastern on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Huge shout out to the chat box. See a bunch of you guys in here. Ski Profit, we got Tyrone Boyd, a bunch of VIPs in here. Have Cash, Brian, all you guys. Feel free to fire out any questions. We are going to be a little bit short on time, so not sure we can get to all of them. Already see a couple in here, but fire away. We'll try to get to as many as we can. Teddy, international games here. Is that something that makes your handicap with the teams having to travel like that? I guess it could be correlated. I haven't gone through and done the work of when the teams are getting the bye week, but it might have something to do with that. But international games, also note, no Mexico game. That was one of the best, I felt, atmospheres watching the game, but I guess they're redoing the stadium down there, getting ready for the World Cup. So there's no Mexico game, 2 Germany games, and it looks like 3 London games. Does that work into your handicapping at all?
Yeah, so we talk about the Mexico game and why there is none this year. The reports on the field, the reports about the field conditions after the game were not good. Last year, the NFL is going to play there again. They're going to do renovations before that happens. When it comes to the 5 international games and the bye weeks, whether they come right after, I'll leave it at this. Yes, it's a factor, especially if a team doesn't have a bye off the international game. But it's not a huge factor. It's not, that alone is not going to put me on or against any team's win total. It's a piece of the equation, but it's a relatively small piece of the equation. And a lot of it depends on who they're facing in that first game back. If they don't get a bye, it's helpful for a team that, especially if you have the early season international game. You don't want that early season bye. The later the bye, generally the better for contending teams. Now, for teams that are going to go through growing pains early, an earlier bye can be helpful. You got a rookie QB, you got a young QB, you have a new system. There's a difference. There's not a scenario that says all bye weeks, all early byes are bad and all late byes are good. But in general, contending teams, we like the late bye weeks. Rebuilding teams, we like the early bye weeks. Both benefit from those particular circumstances.
Like it, Teddy. And in particular, the individual games, anything off the top of your head, Frankfurt, Germany, or London, England, that you look to bet, like, side totals wise, that's been an advantage? No?
No, I really haven't even looked at the international games yet in any real way.
Okay.
I know there were some numbers up for the international games early, but it's not something where I'm like, okay, these 5 games, just when you look at NFL articles, again, your mainstream article this time of the year, they're like, oh, they must-see games this year, or international games. They're just highlighting, hyping individual games. I don't care about an individual game. It's just a game, man. If there's a bet, we'll get it. And if but now it's about, oh, I can't wait for this regular season matchup in week 7. Shut up, dude. No. We're all waiting now. We're patiently waiting. We're drumming our fingers on the table, waiting for week 1 of the preseason. That's what we're waiting for. There's no regular season game. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for this one. Shut up.
Yeah, I like it. Well said there, Teddy. Yeah, the first international game is the Falcons and Jaguars, week 4, again, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Guys, fire away some questions here in the chat box. We got Smoky Steam Bets chiming in here, Teddy. Teddy, do you look at mid-tier team who might be playing the division favorite in week 18? Sometimes those teams have the division wrapped up by then. Therefore, that mid-tier team, going up against maybe the backups for the favorite. That's a good question here, Smoky Steam Bets. Appreciate it. Does that work into your handicap?
So we certainly pay a lot of attention to week 18 of the NFL season when we're talking about win totals. All right. A lot of times with a bad team, a lesser team, if hey, week 17, they're facing this team that might have clinched already. And week 18, they're facing that team that might have clinched already. Wow. From a strength of schedule standpoint, the opponents that they faced, they may not be getting their A game. So you asterisk that, or you adjust downwards in that scenario. So it is something that I do pay attention to, those week 17/week 18 matchups against potentially elite teams that have already clinched. But there are plenty of times the elite teams haven't clinched anything. There are plenty of times where the elite teams are fighting for a playoff spot and are bringing their A game there. So you don't want to necessarily overreact to a potential scenario in week 18. Week 18 is a long, long, long way away. Mm-hmm. And the teams, and what we think they're going to look like in week 18, some of them are going to be right, and some of them are going to be wrong. And a lot of the ones that we're going to be wrong are injury-based. And handicap that at the best. Good luck handicapping that. It's not always easy to do.
Another question here, Teddy. Have you ever seen a schedule as easy as the Saints? They play the rest of the division twice, and then the NFC North, AFC South. They'll get 10 or 11 wins just off that alone. Of course, Teddy, the Saints did make your weakest top 5 list. But, hey, is this like historically weak in your opinion?
It's pretty weak. It is pretty weak. There's not a team that, there's too much stuff here that's, I can't remember if there's a team that had a comparably weak schedule. I'm sure there has been some team sometime, but New Orleans does stand out as having a notably weak schedule, as weak as it gets. And that's why a very mediocre team on paper, and maybe I'm being generous by calling them very mediocre. But that's why their line is 9.5 wins. Their line there, with the elites or with the good teams, it's entirely based on their schedule.
Like it, Teddy. Another international note here from Gerald Jones. Good point here with the chat box chiming in. The Falcons versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, but the Jaguars week 4 and week 5 stay in London. Therefore, just because they have 2 international games, I would actually say that's a positive, not a negative, because they're playing over there. I didn't realize that, Teddy. I'm guessing one of them would count as a home game, one of them would count as an away game, so they don't lose 2 in Jacksonville. But still, hey, interesting note there from Gerald Jones. Anything on that, Teddy? And also from Dano here, how many points is home field worth?
So the Jaguars play in London. I've played again in London every year, so they're actually developing a fan base over there. So that may be a big edge for them in week 2 of that scenario. How much is home field worth? The answer is less and less every year.
Yeah.
I've been factoring anywhere from a point to 2.5 points based on the scenario as a home field edge. Used to be a straight field goal either way. Now I can't think of a scenario where I'll give more than 2.5 points, and oftentimes it's 1 or 1.5. And that's team specific for me. I do go through each team. All right, we're going to give them a 2. We're going to give them a 1.5. We're going to give them a 1. We're going to give them a 2.5. But that's my ratio, 1 to 2.5. And your basic is like a 2. 2 points each way. The markets adjust a little bit more. They tend to be closer to 2.5.
Teddy covers, guys. NFL season wins 97 and 47. That's 67%. 97 wins, 47 losses. Last 21 years. So it's not just all backloaded or front loaded with those wins, guys. 21 years, 97 and 47 with his NFL season win total report, and 15 and 4, 79% on the 5% big tickets. Again, the date not for sure, but it's going to probably be this first release in the month of June. So going to want to look out for that. Teddy covers, WagerTalkSportsMemo.com. Teddy, awesome stuff, man. I know I learned a lot. My sheet here of notes is full, so always appreciate the time, man. Good stuff. Any kind of final thoughts here before we shut this down?
So I went 3-3 with the win totals last year, and a big ticket loser, and I'm pissed off about it. All right, I like to win these reports every single year, and last year we went 3-3 and lost juice, and that's not okay. When you're locking up your money long term, you expect profits. So I'm always transparent. I'll tell you guys when I win. I'll tell you guys when I lose. And last year was mediocre at best. I'm gonna do better this year. Watch and see. Get on board. And again, now we'll talk more about that. That's. Next time. I'm not going to try to hype any plays or anything like that. Hopefully we gave you some good info today, and we'll keep that up over the summer months. Cheers. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, guys. Yeah, we'll be back in the month of June. Follow Teddy on Twitter at Teddy_covers. I'm on Twitter at Drew Martin Betts. Huge shout out to the chat box again, guys. All you guys chiming in with the questions. Feel free to reply below. Any questions, comments, thoughts on the show, and we'll answer any questions on the next opening line report. So for Teddy covers, I am Drew Martin. Huge shout out to Dan Alexander behind the scenes producing. Smash that like button, guys. Comment below. Cash those tickets.
A 7-day all-access pass is a great way to get a week of your favorite WagerTalk handicapper selections for under $15 per day. An all-access pass includes all plays in all sports released from your favorite WagerTalk expert, including any top-rated 5% plays generally priced at $35. Well, we not only made the 7-day all-access better this week, but we made it 50% better. From now through Sunday, May 21st, you can head to your favorite handicappers page and get the 7-11 special, giving you 11 days of all-access service for the same $99 we normally charge you for 7. It's like getting a $59 3-day pass and a $39 1-day pass for free. So pick 1, pick 2, or pick all your favorite handicappers and get their all-access service for the next 11 days for only $9 per day per handicapper.